Good evening, everyone. I think this is post-lunch hour, so some of you might already be sleepy. So I won't take a lot of your time. I think this is not going to be a typical D2C sort of presentation. I'm going to talk really just about how do you build a brand in a category that does not ever exist, right? And how that brand sort of evolves it on its own and sort of becomes synonymous with the product, and then therefore how do you really make the best use of it over time. uh, Starting up, I don't know how many of you guys know about PSafe. Maybe if you can have a raise of hands of how many people know actually. Okay, perfect. I think what I see is majority people know about PSafe. But my next question, is this going to move? Yep, it's not. Okay. Uh, my next question to all of you guys is that can you just take maybe 10 seconds and think about, or maybe 30 seconds and think about, in the last decade, has there been any new category you've consumed or heard about? And I would welcome all kinds of answers. Think of all kinds of consumption categories from morning till evening, whatever you consume. Just think about if there's something new that you started adding into your consumption cycle. Any guesses? Any? What sanitizers? Hand sanitizers. It's not really a past decade phenomenon. It's a slightly older. It started around 2006 when China hit SARS-CoV, the SARS virus. Before COVID, there's a virus in China called SARS, right, which started sanitizers. But really, I mean, honestly, I've been thinking on this question for really long, for the last decade only, and each time I think I can't really begin to find a category which actually became a usable category. There were a lot of new concepts that were launched, but nothing actually could break out of that concept into a category which can be consumed by people. Uh, yes, Apurv, you have a suggestion on that? Sexual wellness, which product? Vibrator existed. They've been existing since 1980s. No, I mean in India they were being imported in 90s also, but they were being sold in a old store in Trafford Market which nobody could go to, right? Now you can get it online. So, but no, interesting. Yes, interesting. I think it's a good service, but I think again it's not really a consumption category as such, and not to be consumed by masses at large. So it's a very specific problem. Yes, smart watches. Yes, that's a phenomenon of the last decade. Again, due to digitalization, I think yes, gummies existed. I think it's the new forms of gummies that exist, but I think smartwatch is definitely one category that was created in the past decade. So kudos to you. Maybe if you're carrying pizza, we'll definitely, that's a sort of freebie that you'll get on this. But moving ahead, I think really, what I mean to say is that there are basically no categories that have been created in the past decade in the country. Uh, and more specifically, very few innovative or disrupting categories have been created for women. And I think which is one such challenge that we took up. This is actually based on one of our personal experiences. My other two co-founders, incidentally on one of their travels, caught UTI, and so severe that she was flown back to Delhi and she was diagnosed and was hospitalized. Little did they know that even after using staying at 5-star hotels, eating at good restaurants, not at regular dhabas, you can get UTI, and which occurred to them, which is when it occurred to them that even the cleanest looking washroom is not sanitized. It can still bear germs, it can still carry germs, and therefore something has to be done. For donkey's years, we've been thinking about what is inside the pot. Our maid servant comes, cleans the toilet bowl, but what are they doing for the toilet seat? Practically nothing. And which led to the idea, if there's something which can be sprayed, like a sanitizer, if it can be placed on the toilet seat and can evaporate itself and sort of kill all the germs and bacteria, it could really solve that problem. And which led to the birth of PSafe. Precisely about a decade ago is when we launched this product, but for 3 years it was just being sold organically. So going forward, I think I'm going to talk about how a product sort of takes up its own journey, right? I think really in our case, what happened was that that product became an identity on its own, and that happens through a chain of sort of work, right? You understand your consumer, you have to really educate them, and to educate them, you have to really constantly give a very hard-hitting message, and then eventually you reach the scale where you build that trust and that emotion, and see that idea, okay, this is a brand that I can actually rather consume, this is a brand that I can actually trust, and which is the formation of how PSafe really became from a product to a brand, and vice versa as well. I think in our case, two things have happened very interestingly. Product became brand, then brand started became the category. So brand name became synonymous with the product. Nobody called it toilet spray or toilet seat sanitizer spray. Everybody called it PSafe, and to be able to sort of get there, I think we had to actually do a lot of work, which I will of course cover in my sort of following slides. But these are two sort of I would say aspect that I would really want to sort of leave you guys up with. That how do you really create a brand out of just one product, and then how do you really multiply that product into various other categories. Then of course you can't really scale a company or rather build a company with just one product. The economics just won't fit in, right? It's a sub 200 rupee product. You can't sell it on e-commerce. You can't do a D2C. Even if you go to a retailer and tell him, okay, boss, can you keep this a few units of PSafe? They'll be like, how much margin I'm going to make? And it doesn't make sense. You can't command the shelf space. So therefore, we had to expand. And I think the expansion for us was quite natural. We were solving hygiene, and we were solving hygiene for women. And therefore, it made a natural sort of progression for us that why don't we get into fem hygiene? And back in those days, in 2017, about 8 years from now, when we started off, feminine hygiene has perhaps the least penetration in our country. It was hovering around 15 or 17%, and there was nothing being done around it. There was no conversation around it. There was no new introductions, no innovation, and therefore we took up that charge that we will, we'll come out and sort of create some of these new categories. Every quarter, literally, we would sit down, study about a category, and try and disrupt it in our own way, right? One such interesting category is a panty liner. In fact, I'm happy to tell you that we're the largest seller panty liner in the country. We sell more than 35 lakh liners a month. And we beaten Whisper, Stay Free, Carefree, Bella, all the large incumbents in this category only because of one insight. All of these guys were just importing it from Europe or China. They were not selling the Indian size. They were selling a smaller size, which was for petite women. Indian use case is very different. We just worked on that insight and really worked on a product which was longer, slightly thicker, was suitable for surprise periods, towards the end of the cycle, and that's how we kind of started disrupting some of these categories, right? And now, to that stage, in 5 years, it became the market leader in its own category. Likewise, we did the first biodegradable pad. I think pads as a category, there was no innovation being done, and therefore, we had to do something different, and we figured out that perhaps, to stand out, we have to differentiate the product and create our own moat against competition, and competition is very, very thick in this category, right? And likewise, we've gone on and done a lot of other products. But really, what I'm trying to tell you is that all of these extensions or other expansion happen based on all the feedback that you gather from your own consumers. You get validation on a particular concept, and then you sort of go on and rather invest in it. And this is and which is when constantly that cycle of trust keeps building with the consumer. Then this was until pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we had another different sort of challenges. We've already scaled up a few products. We've established ourselves in two categories: solid hygiene and feminine hygiene. But then you need to understand hygiene is not a priority in the country. Perhaps the least amount of consideration to this date is being paid on hygiene. Therefore, and there were some interesting insights, right? I mean, during COVID, a lot of women could not go to salons. They needed grooming at home, and which is to give birth to fur. Fur is your body hair, and fur, interestingly, fur is a grooming brand for women. Then we also figured out sexual wellness, which our colleague here pointed out. I think that again was a category that was extremely underserved. Nobody was talking about it, and we've been taking some of these bold bets, right? Talking about subjects which nobody really talks about. And the idea is the customer has to be in the center of everything. It's the same customer that is buying our hygiene, that is also buying our grooming, that is also buying our sexual wellness, right? So we've been able to create that adjacency very beautifully and sort of retain the customer and increase the LTV uh, going forward, right? And then of course you have to really work on the best quality of product, a very distinct identity. By the way, I'm not going to get into the jargons of house of brand or brand house, but these brands have taken birth from PSafe, and therefore, they are rather an extension of PSafe. So the first part was, of course, how do you create, how do you expand a brand, and the other part is how do you extend the brand. So we've done both vertically and horizontally. Um, then I think, before me, Pankaj beautifully covered some of the content play in this space, right? I think especially in categories which require a lot of education, you need to be able to create content which connects with the consumer, and of course, I mean, all of us know that content marketing is a new game, but how do you differentiate really is by creating content which is in a storytelling format, which actually is able to connect with the consumers, and therefore we've been able to create a lot of interesting campaigns which have to some extent reached that scale, and therefore kind of build that connect with the consumer. Uh, then I think much like other brands, early stage brands, we also struggled with bringing on board some names and celebrities, which coincidentally for us, pre-COVID, they couldn't cost a lot. They wouldn't cost a lot, and I think there was still some authenticity to the content that they were creating. And these days, I would not recommend you like any early stage brand rather to sort of invest in celebrities or influencers at that scale. But I think, uh, but it did make sense for us while we were sort of in our brand building journey. Some of these names you would know. Jacqueline was our ambassador for another brand called Raho Safe. We had Anita Hasnandani. She launched our Fem Hygiene range. Manu Bhakar, which was who just won a bronze in Olympic. She was our ambassador before even anybody knew her. She was our ambassador in 2018, right? So we were able to really find out talent which actually and really communicate how we turn their pain into pride. A lot of athletes actually have faced a lot of challenges while sort of playing sport or traveling while they have to play sport. Then just some numbers. We're in nearly 35,000 stores across the country in about 100 odd cities. Six of our products are the bestseller in their respective categories, not just on Amazon but across the board. We've got a good presence in quick commerce as well, nearly 2,000 plus dark stores. And to top it all up, we've reached 1.5 crore customers. We've serviced 1.5 crore customers to this date in 8 years, right? And they really say that the journey of a product to a brand is very long. It's sometimes decade long, right? So a brand really is nothing but I mean, these days a lot of us confuse a label for a brand. For you to really become a brand is when you break out of that critical mass. And for us, I think we consider 1 crore women as that critical mass, right? So last year itself, we actually broke out of that and really hit that milestone. And when you break out of that, you start seeing the goodness of all the hard work that you put in the initial years, right? So out the 15 million customer who have bought from us, 1 million have bought from us on our own D2C, and therefore we have that database for us. And these are some of the retailers, renowned retailers who sell our product. We're in nearly 40 plus chains in modern trade across India. But beyond India also, I think an interesting aspect for us was that we were creating these categories which not really exist anywhere else also in the world, right? So there was a lot of inbound interest coming in from international retailers, and therefore we've expanded into multiple countries. Now we're in nearly 23 countries, and about 1,000 stores in these 23 countries, and also of course selling in a lot of marketplaces in the West. I think to sum it all up, this is my last slide of the presentation. we were, honestly, we all started this because of the cause that we believed in, right? Women hygiene in India was extremely underserved, but can we do it commercially? To the I would say the lowest most strata, we cannot, right? So we were essentially only servicing, or rather, were able to solve problems for the urban women who could afford us. But we wanted to really go back and think, what can we really do to support women who do not even have access to these products? How do we build habit there? And therefore, we've over these years we've partnered with a lot of non-profits, a lot of corporate CSRs, some of the large big names like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, SBI Foundation, and try to go to the grassroots level. We've actually sometimes even adopted villages and tried to sort of inculcate that hygiene habit in those sort of villages, right? So till now we've delivered more than 400 sessions pan India, nearly 2 lakh menstruators who've actually by the way converted into using something. Earlier, before us, they were just using a cloth, banana leaves, ashes, whatnot, right? So we were able to really sustainably create habit around menstrual hygiene amongst these 2 lakh women, and of course to do that we've had massive support from some of these partners who are mentioned here. That brings me to the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Are we good? Oh, perfect. Thank you.